This is Trophy, the Scoundrel's Quarter, Part 10. A little bit of housekeeping here, I think, in the beginning. So we had kind of like ended Hester's Mill maybe a little prematurely because for drama's sake, for cinematic purposes. But we do still have a few things to wrap up there, but I think we can handle it mostly in housekeeping. I don't think we need to role play anything really here. So one thing I want to point out is that you could have spent 3 hunt roll tokens to automatically achieve the last set goal, which was to find the treasures of Hester's Mill. If you all want to contribute 3 tokens to that effort, I will go ahead and do that and give you the treasures.
I don't know. Do we have enough?
I have
Yeah.
2.
Tuckle's
Yeah, I don't
got
mind putting my
2.
one.
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah. I'll put one in.
Yeah, I'll put one in.
Tuckle, you want to throw in it?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So then, I do need the PDF. So let me go find the Trophy Gold PDF real quick.
You don't have it memorized?
No. It's a good treasure haul, but I just can't remember exactly what it is. So this treasure would have been found if you go into one of the oubliettes and remove a stone that was loose, and then it's there stashed. We'll assume your characters did that if you've spent the tokens, and you will find a few things. So inside, there is a note of deposit from a bank in Umbaret. You have to go to Umbaret, but if you do, it's worth 4 gold. There is a pair of silver cufflinks worth 1 gold. A sack of coins and gems, which is 2 gold on your gold counter total. You can split that up. And then a gold holy symbol of Saint Hester, which is the stylized sickle and wheat stalk. It's not a little corn dolly one, though. It's a gold one, and it is also worth 1 gold. So silver cufflinks, gold holy symbol, 2 golds worth of coin and gems, and then this bank note. The bank note can be sold in Fort Durin for a discount. You can sell it in Fort Durin for 2 gold if you don't want to go to Umbaret. But
I mean, it feels like we'll be going to Amber at some point or another.
Yeah.
just possibly not before you have to do burdens this next time,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Who is suffering for their burdens right now?
I have 5 right now, and I only have 1 gold.
I have 7 burdens and no gold,
Okay.
but I have a lot of treasure that's worth gold.
I see. The only thing I think I found was the embroidery, and I took that from Benat, and that's only worth 1 gold. So I essentially just have 2 gold. Does the Journal of Beatrice Mandrake, does that have any kind of value?
Yeah, it actually does. You could probably get a gold for that. Yeah.
Okay.
And you don't need it anymore. I will point out you have the Starlight Serpent egg worth 6 gold. So
Stop that.
that's one thing to point out there.
No, is that my child?
Can't sell his child.
The slight observation.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna hold off on that just a little bit until it's completely, absolutely necessary. But yeah. So I guess I have 3 gold at this point.
So who's taking what?
I'll take, Tekla will take whatever the others let her have, I think, because she's still the newbie.
And Tekla doesn't have any burdens yet, right? Or does she?
Tekla does not have to meet them for
Got
this
it.
adventure, but we'll have to the next time. So.
Got it. What does Magda want?
I think Magda's feeling too guilty to take anything.
Well, I know that Cassian isn't fond of Amberette, but he also has a hand to deal with. I will take the cufflinks, at least.
Yeah, Cassian couldn't.
I can only
use
use
them.
1.
Yeah. So I'll take those.
I'm also good on my burdens, so yeah, I'll just take whatever is left over.
Well, if it's okay, then I'll take the cufflinks and the banknote, and then you guys can split up the rest.
And then if anyone has any tokens left over before we go, you can just convert it to gold. So
I think I'm left with one after if we were putting one in each to complete that set.
yeah,
I'm
you
left
you
with
have one left. I think you're the only hunt token left
Yeah,
currently.
right.
So you can cash it in for gold, which you can put in your hoard or do whatever you want when we get back to Hearthfire. Okay, so that's good. And then if we fast forward to Fort Durin, we have that that innkeeper who was keeping hold of Banah's money. Who was that innkeeper? What was his name or their name? Isabet, or I guess was it a woman?
Yeah, it was a woman. Yeah,
Isabet. I think if you had kept your hoard in a place that like can't be found, I wouldn't let you all have it. But because you just basically left it with a makeshift bank in Scoundrel's Corner, you could probably go to Isabet and like try to like stake a claim to Banah's treasure because it would have been yours if not given over to Banah, right? And Banah doesn't have any heirs that we're aware of, so
or that he's aware of. I don't think.
well, fair enough. Yeah. So are you all gonna have that conversation or what?
Yeah, I'm done to have it.
Very good. So Isabet, she, I can't remember what's the name. Do we know the name of the inn that she runs? Do we ever just decide what that was? I don't know if we did, but
I don't think we did. No, I didn't write it down in any case.
you find her, and she's wiping down the bar, and she sees you, and she says, "Oh, you're in that party of treasure hunters that Banah travels with, yes?
The very same. Yes.
How is he? He usually stops by. I suppose maybe his incursion wasn't as fruitful as last time."
That's funny that you should mention that because that's what we came to talk about.
Oh,
Well, our dear friend Banah unfortunately did not make it out of our last incursion, and well, in the interest of making sure that his party is taken care of, we've come to stake our claim to his hoard.
oh, very interesting. Well, I suppose that is something I might be able to work out with you. Of course, Banah was helping me with something, and I think it would be, well, it would be a good gesture in exchange for my good gesture if you were to take over his responsibilities in this regard.
What was the responsibility again?
Now, she's kind of lying here because he wasn't yet.
Yeah,
but-
I think he's just asking because
yeah. She says, he was going to help me with a little matter related to, let's just say, a religious order that has fallen out of favor.
Malkus actually kind of turns to Kazian since he knows that he's got a bit of a religious background. Which religious order?
That's not the sisters, I'll tell you that.
I am familiar with a religious order outside of the influence of the church.
Let's just say that I'm going to help you out in this way, but I will come call upon you. And of course, I hope that when you need supplies for going out on your journeys, that you will come to me first as well. There's no need to sever any of the relationship that Bana and I had. We can simply transfer it over to you.
Very well.
So someone has to take Isabet as their shopkeeper, essentially.
I'll do it. I'm not gonna let Bana's promises be left unfulfilled.
Yeah, promises. Good. You all shake on it, and she will produce his money, which you can split up 3 ways, 2 gold a pop. Or however you wish.
Yeah, I'm fine to 3 ways, unless Mag was feeling penitent.
Well, if I'm going to fulfill Bana's promises, I'm going to need a little to help me buy, you know.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Cassian
I'll
will
take
just
2.
take one and hand the other to Tekla.
How generous.
Well, thank you.
If you're planning on joining us on further incursions, it is better for everyone if you're prepared.
It's very thoughtful.
And I think at this point, we'll just go to Hearthfire. So everyone needs to first meet their burdens. So erase treasure or gold equal up to your burdens so that we know that's done. And when you do so, go ahead and unmark your armor. If you have a household, you can clear any conditions that you wish, and you can decrease your ruin by 1 as well.
Would the ledgers and letters from River Rock Keep be worth anything?
Yeah, I think you can get a gold for that. These are all interesting historical artifacts, right? And if everyone has their burdens sorted out for this journey, we'll just go ahead and do a round or 2 of Hearthfire to see how you all get your ruin lowered, those of you who need to, and whether you take on new skills or anything like that. We can start with Magda. Magda, you have 4 ruin currently. It seems like you didn't have any trouble meeting your burdens. And do you have a household?
Sorry, I do.
Okay. You get to lower your ruin by 1 and clear any conditions that you wish.
Oh, I already lowered my rune down to 4.
Oh, okay. Oh, you had 5. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, you get to clear any conditions you wish as well. And then because you are using your household, you get to, for yourself, declare a memento to put in your house from this last, from Hester's Mill.
I think if nobody took them, I don't remember if anybody took them, I will have Bana's dice.
Okay, great. Love that. And Cassian, what would you like to do for Hearthfire?
I think I'm going to invest in my hoard for the first time.
Oh, okay. How much are you putting in there?
2 gold.
Fantastic. You got to do the first 2 marks. Where do you keep it so no one can find it?
The branch that occasionally pushes through into his apartment when the forest is feeling angry. If you follow that down, it leads to a tree with a pretty distinct hollow on the backside, and he has nestled it in there in a black sack, so none could find it.
Fantastic. And narrate a flashback to the moment finding the artifact that proves the king's true nature became your drive.
It was night in the castle, and Cassian, or in the palace, and Cassian had recently received a promotion from the King's Guard to actually guarding the king. The weather was warm and very uncomfortable inside the palace, and he snuck away to get a bit of a breath of fresh air on a small balcony without realizing that the window into the king's quarters was perfectly visible. And as he leaned over to look down into the city of Amberette and turned after catching some movement in the corner of his eye, he saw the king shuck his robe, and what was beneath was not skin, or at least not any skin he was familiar with, and the face that turned away, peeking out from underneath the edge of what should be the king's head, looked more like wood than flesh. And it was that night that Cassian fled the King's Guard.
Nice. I love it. Thank you. Malkuth, what would you like to do for Hearthfire?
So I'm thinking I am going to go ahead and I'm really racking up these conditions, huh? You know what? I'm actually just
You
going to
do
do
have a lot of conditions.
I know he's been through a lot. But I think he's got enough in him to deal with at least one more tragedy. So I'm just going to put in my horde for now. And then I will go ahead and pick something from there, right?
Yeah, you pick something from the list there.
So I'm going to go ahead and actually, do you mind coming back to me so I can move?
Yeah, no problem. Tekla, what would you like to do for?
Oh, I don't have any conditions or any ruin, so I guess I will put some money in a horde.
Okay, sounds good to me. Well, you haven't been in Fort Durand long, but where do you keep your horde so no one can find it?
I think I take a room in a kind of a library come extension of some kind of university from Amberette. And my horde is stashed there in amongst a collection of books and scrolls, perhaps even tucked into a false cover book. You know, one of those books where the pages inside it kind of just hollowed out into a
book that looks really boring from the cover. Nobody would ever open it up.
Yeah, or looks kind of not a studious tome, so the people that share these accommodations would not be interested in it.
It's a filthy romance novel or something.
Right, yeah.
I love it. Good. And please narrate a flashback to the time when you publishing your discoveries from Ancient Caldur became your drive.
I think we see a slightly younger Tekla. In the house of someone that we are not clear who it is yet, and she's kind of dressed in rags, looks poor and perhaps even ill-treated or malnourished. But she's stroking her fingers along the spines of a series of books, lit by just a candle that she's holding in her other hand. And we see her pull out a single volume and open it. And it contains some illustrations alongside the text of practices and customs of old Chaldea. And we see her eyes just, the pupils in her eyes dilate as she sees this, and she sets the candle down, and the finger of one hand is kind of just almost stroking the page with some kind of fascination. These are things she'd never dreamed of in her life up until that point.
Thank you. And let's cut back over to Malkuth. Malkuth, you have your option.
Yes. I picked, in what way does your physical appearance reflect your obsession with your drive? And so we find Malkuth at the bottom of that well where he keeps his hoard. He has his egg in his little woven papoose, and he's got this gold that he's hiding away, tucked into a crevasse. But as he's down there, he's kind of enjoying, not necessarily enjoying, but sort of just kind of taking in the quiet and the solitude. He's been on the road with these other people for quite some time. And he sits down and begins to repair his studded gauntlets, which were damaged in Hester's Mill. And we see that his tattoos all sort of have this sort of geometric quality to them. All these different kind of lines look like almost like carved patterns into his flesh. But there's a moment where he turns his arm, and we see there's a very different tattoo in his forearm, and it's a name. The name itself is Fiolet, Fiolet, and he kind of gently touches his finger across it, and he thinks quietly to himself about his sister, who is still trapped in that fortress, dealing with all the things that he as a big brother he promised her he would protect her from. And think as he's taken by this moment of recognition, we see just a bit of a tear start to fall down out of his eye, and he shuts it, trying to block her face out, trying to block the name out. But I think that he's overwhelmed by everything that he's experienced. He starts to hear the screams from that man who he was crushing underneath the millstone. He's hearing the last cries of Bana in the distance. He's just feeling all of this overwhelmed, and he can't hold it in anymore. And so we leave him in the base of this well, just a blubbering, sobbing mess as he's trying to repair his studded gauntlets.
Thank you.
This is probably a really bad time to ask if I can sell the beast bitten pelt.
Yes, you certainly can. Well, so the thing is that by the time the pelts actually rot pretty quickly, by the time you would have reached Fort Duran, it would have rotted beyond salvageability, unfortunately.
Oh, there's got to be some weirdo who wants a rotten beast bitten pelt.
You can maybe put it in your household.
Yeah, no.
The skull.
I already have a giant butter thing in there. I don't need. It's already going to smell real weird.
Maybe the skull would be of value to someone. To the right buyer, though. I don't think there's anybody in Fort Duran who wants it. But you can transform it to a beast bitten skull if you want.
Beast bitten skull.
I mean, it's a little gruesome if you think about it, because beast bitten are a people in this world. They're not.
Yeah, I just have someone's skull.
Yeah, they're not like you know. I mean, they are like monstrous, but they're not. You know, they are one of the people.
In that case, I still have a little bit of gold, so I'd like to spend a gold to heal myself of one ruin.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Cassian,
Um,
anything else for Hearthfire?
No, I think I'm set.
And it sounds like Tekla and Malkuth, you're set as well.
Yep.
And Magda, was that it for you?
Yep.
Okay. Then let's keep going in Fort Durin for a bit. Nobody would ever mistake the Scoundrel's Quarter for a place of academic inquiry or deep learning. It's just not that kind of place. However, because it exists a little bit on the margins of polite society and indeed the establishment, it is a place where from time to time unorthodox thought becomes kind of a thing, or people are willing to say things that maybe they would not be willing to say under the gaze of the King's Guard or under the governor's men, or certainly not in Ambarat, right? And except at maybe the universities. And so people do occasionally have in the Scoundrel's Quarter salons where thinkers, philosophers are invited to speak on various matters. Patience Davies is holding a salon. She is, to the people of the Scoundrel's Quarter, just a very mysterious woman. She is not a beetle lady. And she is hosting a very controversial fellow at her salon. Now, whether any of you are there, I don't know. I'm sure Tekla would be, and maybe even Cassian, because it has to do with alternative religious topics. That is what we're talking about today. This man, his name is not particularly important right now, he's been going on at some length about the sisters and about, you know, orthodoxy. Where did they come from? Why do we venerate them? All this sort of thing. At a certain point, he's reaching a particular point in his conversation, and he says, why do we even venerate the sisters? It is a question that we should ask ourselves. We are a people, traditionally speaking, of folk belief. We are a people who look for the gods in the earth, and we have done for many, many centuries, since the times of Old Kaldur. We did not previously need the sisters to help us understand our own faiths. Who are they, even? Where did they come from? And there's a little bit of hubbub, you know. These are controversial things to say. And then he says, even here in the Scoundrel's Quarter, there's a story that you all like to tell in the taverns. The story of the flocculent cathedral. And there's some more hubbub. I think if we examine the component parts of this story, and indeed its rather shocking conclusion, I think that there is something to be learned about the true nature of the sisters. And he gets some pushback on this, but he begins recounting the story of the flocculent cathedral for the gathered, for the assemblage. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and then we'll be back.
Don't forget your names.
Okay, so we are back, and the flocculent cathedral. We're going to play Trophy Dark. The events of this incursion are taking place at least a couple of centuries before the events of our Trophy Gold game. And I think we're just going to meet the characters kind of in the moment as we play. So we're going to kick off with the Flocculent Cathedral. Saint who spilled their blood for me, lain in flocculent reverie, I seek your light upon my brow. I would be your trophy now. Chained within this dank domain, your relics, all that I retain, all your teachings I avow. I would be your trophy now. This foul entombment of your will, I would not see you slumber still. No quarter to what men allow. Take me as your trophy now. And someone in the audience says, yes, yes, we all know the poem. Let's just get to the story. Ring 1. Our treasure hunters stand at the edge of the gloaming mire, a mangrove-dense fen that is rumored to hold the legendary flocculent cathedral. You, of course, are treasure hunters of Fort Durin, the relatively new outpost of Fort Durin, seeking the flocculent cathedral, seeking the riches that will be found within this fen. It is muggy. Sorry, is that a car go by? It is muggy, it is hot, it is unpleasant. And I think I just want to meet all the characters. And in particular, I'm curious, after you tell us the basics of who you are, how do we see you dealing with this very uncomfortable, humid, nasty environment? Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
I can go first since I'm first in the character keeper. I am going to play Parda. Her pronouns are she, her. She is a woodcutter for occupation, and her background is a reformed thug. Skills in beast, strength, trails, and intimidation. And my drive is to take Cyrus's place at the Earthen Council.
Interesting. Do you have any other thoughts on that, or shall we learn as we play?
Oh, I think the Earthen Council is pretty well known to be a circle of legitimate businessmen in Fort Durin. And Cyrus is one of my former thuggery partners who set me up. And that's how I went to prison. And when I got out, I just made a living doing woodcutting until I found out that Cyrus had taken a spot in the Earthen Council.
Gone legit, yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm gonna get him.
I love it. And how do we see you right now, especially in particular dealing with this heat?
Parda's a big woman, and because of the wood cutting, she's got the big muscles. And because she spent some time in prison, she's not really concerned with how she looks or how dirty a place is. So she's just sweating and then using her shirt to wipe it off, just kind of spreading around the oils on her skin and the dirt.
This part of the gloaming mire is probably the last place that you'll find something resembling civilization. You're on the outer edge of the swamp here. Indeed, at one point you come across 24 skulls, their tops neatly sawed off. They've been arranged to form planters from which garishly colored carnivorous pitcher plants are growing. Fat iridescent horseflies are buzzing languidly around them. The people here in the Gloaming Mire who've managed to make a life here, they've managed it, though it is certainly an adaptation. Jack, who are you playing today?
I'm playing Osto. His pronouns are he, they. His occupation is a nest, and his background is an orphan mannequin. We see him moving through unaffected. He is a construct made of brass and wood and wearing these sort of disheveled peasant's clothing. And we just see him walking with the others. We occasionally see a blink of one eye. It's kind of a bit of a rusty lid, though. And I think there's even a moment where he wanders over to these pitcher plants, and he just sort of sticks his little wooden hinged finger in and pulls out the carcasses of a few flies, and then he just puts them into his chest.
Arda and Osto, as a little paint the scene for just the two of you, what other things do you notice here on the edge of the fen that shows how the people here have managed to adapt?
When we do spot places that people live, I wouldn't really call them houses. They are high up in the trees, either on long stilts or built into the trees themselves to keep them off the ground, to keep them away from things that slither and slide in the forest.
We see that they've made use of the different kind of ferns and fronds. They've made these like massive fans that whenever any kind of wind blows, sort of agitates them, causing them to sort of kick up some of the air throughout the village.
Rob, who are you playing today?
I'm playing Diane. Pronouns they, them. Diane is a champion and an unmasked Feyborn. They appear almost like, I mean, the primary thing you'll notice is that they are clad head to toe in metal armor, engraved finely with very fine kind of scrolling patterns. There is almost an aura of heat given off when you're close to them, and this is particularly noticeable in this muggy environment because there's a faint hissing and a steam rising from them at almost all times. Like the steam is the condensation is just hissing off their armor with heat inside. And if you kind of peek into the visor of the armor, you can kind of see a glow in there. Diane has skills in commands, ferocity, presence, and illusions. And they have 2 rituals: Kindle, which allows them to produce fire from themselves, and Immolate, which allows them to engulf their entire body in flame.
Fantastic. Little fire, big fire. Good. Sounds like maybe of the group, only Osto ever walks near you while you're in the swamp. It seems like everybody else might keep an arm's length or more. Fantastic. Ben, who are you playing today?
I am playing Valen, pronouns he or they. He is a sorcerer and an escaped cultist with the skills of alchemy, rituals, symbols, and deception. And he has the drive of inscribing his mother's name in the Azure archives.
Oh, very interesting indeed. Well.
Oh, and I think as we see him, he looks suspiciously unbothered by the heat. But were you to get close enough, you would definitely smell the sweat dripping off of him, even if you can't see it.
Very good. Your journey through this outer edge of the fen is mostly unremarkable. You don't run into too many people, just these few people who have managed to adapt to this harsh environment. And they are mistrustful of outsiders. And in any case, they probably don't have anything you need. You press ever deeper, trying to reach the center of the swamp in order to find the legendary flocculent cathedral. Night falls, which is a blessing. And you are halted by a noise up ahead. You hear it, and then you see it. A group of people, probably at least a dozen, but maybe more, just on the outer edge, or kind of on the far, let's just say, like, you're kind of getting into the thicker part of the fen at this point. They seem like they might be the last stop in terms of people you might run into on this journey. But this is, even here, an unusual place for people to make a living, or to try to, set up permanent camp. And so these are probably bandits or brigands or something like that. People who are not normally here. Maybe they're treasure hunters like you. I don't know. But in any case, you see their fire. You hear their laughter. They seem to be having a good time. Joking, laughing, occasionally breaking out into song. They're not aware of you yet. Their boisterousness has provided a certain amount of camouflage for you, or at least warning, so that you can get quiet. If they are bandits, that's a problem. But maybe they're not. I don't know. In any case, let's figure out what you're all going to do about this group, because this group is kind of blocking the lone trail through the mangrove forest. And yeah, let's just have the scene.
I
I
think.
don't- Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say Osto, I think, is mechanical in his approach to things, given that he is a mannequin. So I think he is just sort of compelled to keep walking unless someone stops him.
I put my hand out and grab Osto by the shoulder to hold him in place.
Should I not keep walking?
Well, there's people.
Yes.
We don't know them.
We don't yet know their intentions.
Well, can we get around them?
Or perhaps we could just ask them.
In my experience, it's best to go up to a group like that and make sure you're the biggest guy in the room. Show them who's in charge, so to speak.
When you say the biggest guy in the room, Osto just sort of looks down at his body, and it's sort of like skeletal frame of wooden brass. All of it's kind of like knotted and has these like termite holes and mold growing on it. And he, well, I am certainly not the biggest. And then he turns to Dan.
One does not have to be big to be intimidating.
So we're agreed.
So then we should intimidate them.
It is better to be intimidating than to be intimidated.
How should we intimidate them? Do you wish to set them on fire? Or perhaps use your axe?
I could wave my axe around. Maybe hit them if they deserve it.
I believe I will save the pyrotechnics for a time of need.
Then I will stop, and I will follow your leads.
And you, sorcerer? What's your opinion?
Perhaps we need not be biggest, just fastest. We
I
lay a
think
trap.
biggest is better.
Then I
What
will
kind
wait
of
to see
trap?
how that works out.
What kind of trap?
We slow them down.
And you would wish to do this with magic or with Parta's axe?
Well, the axe is certainly a one way to do it. I do prefer the more natural approach.
And chopping off their legs is not much of a trap.
I imagine it would be hard to miss that coming. So what say we? Do I lay a trap?
You lay a trap. I'll intimidate.
Very well.
What is the
And
nature
what
of
shall
this
I do?
trap, Phelan?
I am going to use my clock ritual to make the area that they're walking into move at a slower speed.
Oh, very interesting. So is the idea to like put this like their camp, like slow their camp down, or yeah? Okay.
Yes. So from their perspective, we would be nothing but a blur.
Oh, I like it. Okay. Yeah, I kind of like that. I'm into this. It's a risk roll. Let's remind ourselves of the rules here. When attempting a risky task, declare what you hope will happen. You've done that. And ask myself and the other players what could go wrong. And so let's just have that discussion now. What could go wrong when you start doing time magic out here?
We slow down and they speed up.
Oh yeah. you you find yourself very, very slowly being put in chains.
I think you'll accidentally, in the process of making them slower and us quicker, you will quicken your aging to a almost lethal degree.
Oh, that's pretty good. I kind of like that. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Rob?
I'm thinking something in relation to they have a fire. So if we mess with time in that locality, what if the fire is kind of building up heat in the area where the time is constrained, and when the effect ceases, it'll kind of explode out all at once.
Oh, that's pretty good. So you have a fire behind you. That could be fun. Okay, these are all fun ideas. Let's go ahead and talk about dice. So according to the move, or the roll, it says take one light die if your background or occupation has given you any number of skills that can assist you. So let's talk about your skills. Alchemy, rituals, symbols, deception. I think rituals certainly applies. You have one light die. You take a second light die for accepting a devil's bargain from another player or myself. I'm not going to go into that because we all know what they are. So who has a devil's bargain?
I think no matter what, you will age. Not, you won't die of old age, but you will age visibly.
Anything else?
I'm going to say no matter what, there is one person who is outside the magic when you cast it.
I really love the idea of the aging, but maybe ring one might be a little too soon to bring that in. So let's go with the one that I'll miss.
Are there no other offers on the table? Is that everything?
I don't have anything better than that.
I'm trying to think of no matter what, a part of your body gets slowed down as well.
Sounds horrible. Like your liver.
That's really cool though.
Or your tongue, so that you speak in.
Sound like a whale.
Yeah.
I think I'll go with the one escapee.
Very good. You have 2 light dice, and you have to do a dark die because of the ritual. So go ahead and roll 2 dark and 1, or 2 light and 1 dark.
Light 5.
Light 5. I need to refresh the page or something. I can't see the room. I'm going to share a new link because I somehow got booted out of the room. So, new die roller. Light 5. That's great. So that's a success, but there is a complication. I think the complication is that the person that you all run into actually corners one of you, and that person has to deal with the escapee. So if you're okay with that, that's fine. Or you can add a dark die and try for a 6.
I think I'm good with that.
Okay, sounds good. And so give us the magic. What does it look like?
I think Valen's eyes and mouth glows briefly with a bluey purple light. And we see there's nothing particularly showy, but any insects moving through this area of the road, they're suddenly almost stalled, and the wings are flapping very slowly. And as I assume Parda is making some sort of attempt to get the attention.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just standing there in broad view of the camp, my hands on my hips, holding my axe, looking as big as I possibly can get.
I think as the crowd moves toward Parda, the first one hits and just stops, moving so slowly, almost can't perceive it. And the rest just tumble forward, except for one.
Nice. I want to have the moment where you're all kind of moving through the camp first, and then we'll deal with the stray. So you all perceive this as you yourselves are moving at a normal pace, but all of them are moving really slowly. And I think it might be kind of fun to describe like these bandits' revelry in slow motion, if everyone wants to take a little detail, right? I think for me, we see one person who's just had a little too much, and there's just like slow vomit, like just, and you can see like the person that they're vomiting on who's like,
One guy is loving it. He's falling forward as he stumbles into this time zone, and he looks at his friend with a big smile, and he lets out a woo as he's falling.
There's
As
another
part
man.
of, go ahead.
There's another man who's on the edge of this sort of bubble of time, and we see him standing, relieving himself. And so we just see this very slow trickle of urine, and we see his head starting to very slowly turn to laugh at the men who are being vomited on.
We see one of the other revelers. He's actually leaping over the fire. So as the time slows down, you know, it becomes this slow motion arc that he makes through the air, and the sparks from the fire are rising up around him in slow motion.
There is one. I was also thinking of going with urination. There's one reveler who was banging on a makeshift tambourine, and he is just hanging there, one hand just slowly, and you can see the confusion on his face as he's starting to perceive something is wrong here, but he's trapped in this moment of celebration.
now your ruin went up, correct, Valen?
No.
Oh, what is your ruin? Oh no, you got light 5. That's right, you got light 5. Okay, cool. Yeah. Diane, as you're making your way through the camp, Valen's made it very clear that you all don't have a lot of time to do this. You gotta just walk through and get through and be done. But these are bandits, and you do see on the other side of their camp what appears to be a stack of no doubt ill-gotten gains. Chests, trunks, rolled up pieces of something, probably artwork or who knows, really. Could be anything. But all of it could be very useful and valuable towards helping you becoming a part of the swirling court, which we have not talked about yet. But you could go over there and try to liberate some of their treasure. That is what you're here to do, after all. There's a chance that the spell stops before you have a chance to get out, but it's a thing. What do you do?
Yeah, I think I will go over there and perhaps find some kind of container full of loose coinage or bits of little trinkets. And we see Diane come to a stop, pick up this box or this, maybe just a purse, tilts their head back, opens their visor, and just pours the coins and trinkets into the opening.
I want to do a risk roll here to see if you can get away with this. But we'll come back to it in a moment. Osto, you of course followed instructions very well, I imagine, and are through the camp. I think before, because Parda's sort of like still distracting the group, and Valen has to do the magic, and Diane's distracted by treasure now. You're a little bit by yourself at this point, and you hear someone walking up to you in the darkness. I know what you are. You're a mannequin. I know mannequins. I've heard about people like you.
What have you heard?
Dolls come to life. They say there's more and more of you around, that you come from old Kaldur, or at least the magic that makes you what you are.
Is that a bad thing?
I heard that every mannequin has a fist-sized jewel in their chest, which is the power source that allows them to walk about. Now, whether that's true or not, who knows? You mind if I take a look inside your chest, friend?
I wouldn't mind, but the thing inside might.
And he kind of gives you a funny look. And he says, well, and he has a blade. Maybe it's just something we'll have to work out between us then. And he lunges toward you to try to get whatever's inside your chest. This is going to be a risk roll for you as well.
All right.
How are you going to try to dispatch him?
I think I'm going to use a ritual. I think he wasn't lying about the thing that's inside of him. So I would use Leviathan and draw forth a creature from the deeps being my insides.
Yeah, very good. I like it. Very what's that character on Umbrella Academy? It's very that. Ben, what could go wrong?
It will be drawn forth with a little too much enthusiasm, and it will scatter your parts.
Ooh. Let's talk about dice. Do you have a skill that will help you out here?
I have rituals and I have vermin.
Oh, I like it. Okay, good. And Devil's Bargains. I'll make the offer. The offer is, no matter what, the horror of the deep gets out and you have no control over it.
I love it.
You have 2 light dice and you have to do a dark die. So please go ahead and roll 2 light and 1 dark.
It's 5 light and 5 dark.
So dark is high. The complication is Parda is going to have to deal with this thing. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Go ahead and describe how you dispatch this dude.
So the man yanks at my tunic with his knife. He kind of just cuts through the tunic, ripping it open. And when he rips it open, we see that the chest is just mangled brass torn open to reveal millions of these tiny little eyes. And when he sees it, he kind of is taken aback. But before he can react, just this giant, massive, multi-eyed centipede-like creature just reaches out and wraps itself around it, latching onto his face and dissolving it with whatever kind of digestive fluids it emits.
Oh, nice, like an ankeg. I like it. We'll come back to this moment. Diane, getting your treasure. We love that. Amanda, what could go wrong here?
The treasure's booby trapped, and you get caught in the trap.
Yeah, very good. Do you have a skill that's going to help you out here, Diane? You're muted.
I don't think I have anything that will help with the trapped treasure specifically. No.
Then you are dependent on a devil's bargain from Jack if you're going to get a light die or not.
No matter what, you will also have to deal with this creature that's escaped Osto, and it is hungry.
I got to take it to get that light die, right? So
you do, or you can always just do a dark die. So,
so I can just roll one light.
You can just do one light. Yeah, it's not inherently dangerous yet. So yeah, you can just do a single light.
A 5.
Okay, cool.
Light.
I'm just going to roll up the devil's bargain into the complication a little bit as I describe what happens here. So, you're doing it. You're grabbing. You're pouring gold. You're maybe grabbing some other little things you can get your hands on. It's all great, right? And because you're moving in a blur, and because everybody here is kind of drunk, no one even really like notices. Everybody's really distracted by the vomiting dude. So like that's the thing that's going on, right? You are distracted ultimately, Diane, when a screaming head, partially melted, flies by your face. Just screaming, bone, liquefied tissue and eyes, and just like flies right by your face and slams up against a tree, a mangrove tree. Parda, there's an enormous centipede-like creature that is tearing up the camp, and it moves at normal speed. So it's just like moving through, like weaving through these people, and just like taking off limbs, digesting people. It's really quite horrifying. 2 problems. You are going to have to get Diane out of the camp in order to get all of you through. That's basically, you can't fight the creature because of the rules of the game, but you can try to rescue Diane if you want, or you could just keep going and leave Diane to fend for himself. It's up to you or themselves.
I'll get Diane.
So what do you do?
I think can I use provoke on a creature if I don't really intend to fight it?
What does provoke do?
Force an opponent to make a choice: freeze, fight, or flee.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I think I'm going to try and use provoke on the Leviathan creature.
Okay, I love it. Ben, what could go wrong?
It's going to flee, and that's going to make things difficult for Osto.
All right.
Do you have a skill that will help you here, Parda? Intimidation?
Intimidation.
Yeah, okay, good. I like it. And I'll do the devil's bargain as well. The devil's bargain is going to be you lose your wood cutting axe.
Oh, my axe. How will I cut wood?
Yeah.
So that's 2 light, 1 dark. I'm
I mean, are you
gonna
taking
roll.
it?
Yep.
Okay. 2 light, 1 dark. Go for it.
High light 4.
Okay. The complication is going to be weirdly, is going to be that your magic interacts with Valen's magic in a funny way and causes basically like as if none of this happened. You're on the other side of the bandits' camp, but it's like a rewind sort of situation.
Is everyone rewound or just me?
Everyone, yeah.
I'm gonna look around and see if the Leviathan is still around because I don't trust it to not be there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it'll be
Yeah.
gone. Like
Yeah.
but
Because it hasn't
do you,
happened yet.
yeah, do you take the complication, I guess, or do you want to add dark die and go again?
Oh, I like rewinding it, but I think everyone will just make the same choices. So I'm gonna take the dark die.
Okay. Well, to be clear, you all will be past this obstacle, but just like the bandits are fully intact behind you, essentially.
Okay. I already rolled it and it was a dark 6.
Okay. Full success. Please describe how you
Yay.
dispatch the creature and also lose your axe, by the way.
Watching the creature as it maneuvers around camp, and I have a skill in beasts, I'm tracking where it's going so I know where it's going to be next. I jump in front with a loud thud and the dust kind of spills up around me. I have my axe in my hand and I'm just roaring as loud as I can at this monster, trying to provoke it to hopefully freeze or flee. And it sort of
It flees.
comes out, it stops, and it's frozen in time for just a moment, and it moves towards me as if to, test its limits. And I whip my axe at it. And the axe gets stuck in the creature, and the creature flees with it.
Very good. You all get on the other side of the bandit camp. You're still on this narrow path through the mangrove forest, getting deeper into the gloaming mire. Here's the funny thing. All of that stuff happened in like the blink of an eye for the bandits, right? They're not even aware of their comrades who are dead yet. Like they haven't seen them and they haven't like come upon them yet. They're just like continuing their song. They're laughing about like, their drunken companion. As you are making your way past them safely, they break out into a drunken song. They're singing about the flocculent cathedral. They're singing about a group of treasure hunters seeking riches in the heart of the gloaming mire, riches that they'll find in the flocculent cathedral. But this song, which is done in verses, with each verse focused on a particular character in the song, each verse basically ends the same way, where the treasure hunter gets everything they wanted from the flocculent cathedral, but they lose it all either through theft or sorcery or trickery or simple bad fortune when they get back home. The song is echoing through the mangroves. You can all hear it. And I guess a question for everyone is, what overheard bit of doggerel verse do you take note of that reminds you of your own background? How will this verse help you avoid the fate of the poor fool from the song? Think on it for a bit, and then whoever wants to talk about their verse, say so.
I think there's a verse about a treasure hunter getting led astray by a fey voice in the forest, a spirit, almost, a dryad or that type of thing that tempts them off the path and draws them away, and with promises of taking them to the swirling court. And that reminds Diane of their drive, and their own nature as well, that they are kind of the tempting voice in that scenario rather than the treasure hunter.
Very interesting.
Asto overhears a verse about the beast, big and small, and these treasure hunters who try their best to survive and fight against these creatures, but ultimately they failed. They fell to these bugs, to these insects, and to whatever other creatures are sung about. But for Asto, I think the thing that he takes away from it is that you can't fight nature, you have to embrace it. And that's what he's doing. He's become a nest for things. His body is pockmarked with the places where various insects have made their home inside of him. And I think for him, it's about staying that course, staying true to who he is, which is to serve as a home for the things that others find ugly or distasteful or bothersome.
Parda overhears a bit of the song about a poor woodcutter who found himself in the forest, and he found the flocculent cathedral, and inside of it there was a golden axe that could cut down any tree. He brought it back with him to town and was showing it off, cutting down trees. He became a spectacle, sort of a local celebrity. And the king came to see him cut down these trees. And when the king saw the axe, he decided he wanted it, so he threw the woodcutter into prison on some charge or another and kept the axe for himself. The woodcutter stayed in prison for the rest of his life. The king was unfortunately assassinated fairly shortly after that, and nobody knows where the axe is now.
The bit that Valen catches, the song goes, "Master of time returned from green hells, tried magic to slow the rate of spend. Little did they know their frivolous spells would do naught but speed their end." And so he takes it to heart and considers that when he does get it, to focus on not being an idiot. Shouldn't be hard.
Indeed. I would like for everyone to make a ruin roll to see how the weirdness of the similarity of the verse affects you. Asto got a 1, so your ruin does not go up. Parda got a 6, so yours does go up, Parda. And Diane and Valen both got 3s. Where does that put the two of you?
We're good.
I'm at
That's
5.
equal to my ruin.
Yeah, let's do a quick ruin check. Diane's at 3, Valen's at 3. They have not had an increase. Asto, however, is at 5, and so is Parda. I owe you both conditions, which we'll get to in a bit. And you are both now entitled to do the reduction roll as well. In order to trigger the reduction roll and lower your ruin, you just have to betray the group. So be thinking of how you might do that. But I think as you get distance between yourselves and the bandits, you will have to make camp at a certain point. So you're going to have to go a little further, though, to get enough distance to make camp. But as you're kind of making your way through, you come across a broad, shallow pond filled to capacity with foot-long koi, each with a thick, mottled coat of slimy, multicolored moss clinging to it like fur. You also see an ancient but still standing well of rough but carefully fit, moss-covered stones. And there's a powerful smell of damp mold rising from it, and fat violet slugs line the inside stones where the sun doesn't shine. This whole place, in fact, is just covered with spongy growth. And so passes ring 1. Let's take a 5-minute break. And so you can see, even here in the early part of the journey, there is evidence of an underlying malignance connected to the sisters. Sir, are you suggesting it was the sisters that caused that monstrosity to come out of the mannequin's chest and kill all those brigands? No, that is not what I am suggesting, sir. But what I am suggesting is that at this point in the story is when treachery begins to weigh heavily on the minds of both the woodcutter and the mannequin, and the sisters did nothing to abate these treacherous thoughts. Isn't that what they're supposed to be about, is helping us find our better selves, our better natures? But everyone knows it wasn't the sisters that caused this treachery. That was just the forest doing what the forest does. I mean, a woodcutter, a creature made of wood. Of course it was the forest having its way with them. Perhaps, but... And then we continue on into ring 2 of the incursion, wherein the treasure hunters pass out of the mangrove maze and into an area of thick brambles and stunted trees with marshy soil. And camp. Lighting the fire is no trouble. Diane's very good at that. Even in this very, very wet place, getting the fire lit is no trouble. Maybe that's why you brought them along. I don't know. But in any case, we have to set watch. Who volunteers for first watch?
I can.
You could probably do all of them, right? You don't need to sleep.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't have eyelids on
Same.
one eye, so.
I'll take a watch. I don't want it just to be you.
No, I'm fine. You all should sleep. It's something that you all need to do anyway.
Don't you ever have to rest? What about the bugs inside of you?
Well, they sleep inside of me, but I don't need to rest myself.
I'm going to sleep with my eyes open.
Osto, you're on watch. I will tell you that normally, I mean, I'm sure passing the time is no trouble for you. I'm sure you just go into some sort of weird Zen mannequin state. But I will tell you that there is some consternation going on inside your nest. This is related to your condition that you're getting for your ruin going up. A colony of very, very tiny jewel, like red jewel, like ruby spiders, or their color at least is like red jewels. These little tiny red spiders, they've moved in. They must be some creature from the Fen, I don't know, but they've moved in and they're starting to just murder all the other bugs. Quite efficiently too. What do you do?
He's used to, I think part of that trance that he goes in is thanks to the bugs that sort of hum in his body and sort of squirm, and sort of like the rhythm that they create. But when that's interrupted by the spiders that are crawling inside of him, I think he starts to twitch a bit and realizing that not only is he missing one of his leviathans, but now that he's feeling these spiders quickly just going through his body, marauding it, he stands up and he starts to just kind of like look at the holes and try to find the entrance point where they came in, but he can't find them. And he's just, I think if anyone wakes up, they just kind of see him like pulling at his clothing, looking at his body, trying to figure out what's going on.
Carta, since you're only pretending to be asleep, I suppose you can be awake.
Awesome. I think I'd like to take this moment to do a ritual.
Oh, interesting. What will the ritual do?
I want to do feral, which increases the size, temper, and monstrosity of a creature you touch. We've established that there's bugs all around.
Okay, yeah.
So I just want to find a bug, touch it, make it big, and then take off.
Very Very good. I don't need you to make the ritual roll. We're just doing the reduction roll, so it's going to work. Go ahead and make the reduction roll. Let's see if anybody notices your treachery.
I rolled a 5. It is my ruin. What does that mean?
It is
It
not
says if
less
it is
than
less than,
it
yeah.
does not go unnoticed. Osto, you see Parda causing, what kind of bug did you pick, Parda?
Probably a moth, something that'll kind of stick around the fire, cause problems for them and not for me.
You see Parda making this moth grow large, and Osto, I suppose you could get a reduction roll by saying nothing, by doing nothing, and just letting Valen and Diane deal with it. But what do you do?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Let's have your reduction roll.
It's a 4.
Okay, so you are going to have plausible deniability here when this pops off. So how much trouble can a giant moth cause, I wonder? That's really the open question. It's not exactly a carnivorous bug.
But it also increased its temper and monstrosity.
Oh, okay. Very good.
So it's evil Mothra.
Yeah. So Parda runs. Osto, you're just staying there?
I think, yeah, he's taken aback by this admittedly very beautiful looking giant moth that's swarming their camp. And he stops fidgeting with himself. And I think he goes up to it, trying to see if he can communicate with it.
The moth has landed on Valen. Valen, you're asleep. Who are you dreaming of, Valen? You're having a wonderful dream of like it could be a sex dream or it could just be something else, but you're having a wonderful intimate dream. Who is it you're dreaming of?
There was a young man that I was certain I would be able to convince to escape the cult with me. I was not, but it is nice seeing him again.
In the dream, he holds you close in a little chamber as you're making your way, a little tunnel that you're making your way out of. And he says, Valen, please don't go.
But I must.
And
I'm with.
in the dream, he reaches up and touches your face and begins stroking your face. And then he gets closer to you and he's looming over you while he strokes your face. And he begins dribbling into your mouth, just fluid coming out of his mouth and dribbling into your mouth. And then you wake up to see this giant moth caressing your cheeks with its feelers, dribbling some kind of moth bile into your mouth. Make a ruin roll, first of all.
That's fair. He's cool with it. It's a 1.
Holding it together. Maybe not cool with it, right? How do you react? What do you do?
There's a spluttering yelp as he just tries to get out from under this beast.
We'll come back to this in a bit. Parda, you're getting a condition also, and I think the condition might be the thing that pushed you to do this, right? Maybe it's the reason why you made this, like, you did this like horrible thing to the group. Your condition your condition started causing you to see your companions as if they were rotting and filled with maggots. Tell me about when you first realized this.
It was when we were setting up camp, and I looked over at Osto, and I could see bugs crawling on him. But there's always bugs crawling on Osto. That's not unusual. But then when he raised his hand up to look at some of these bugs, I noticed that they were maggots now. I noticed that the wood on his hand, that his hand is made out of, was decayed and blackened. I looked over at Valen, whose skin was rotting off of his face and dripping down in just dried up husks. Diane had limbs rotting away. I could see the bones of his arms, bones of their legs, pieces breaking off because there's no muscle to hold it in.
And
Yeah.
so, what do woodcutters do when they find a tree that's rotten and filled with infestation?
They chop it. I don't have an axe.
So that's what this was.
Yeah.
The bug was an attempt to dispose of rotten trees. Yeah, good. And now you're just by yourself in the dark, running through the fen, the swamp.
Still safer than being with them. Whatever got them, whatever made them that way. You know what it probably was? It was probably their dabbling in strange things. It's a mannequin and a sorcerer and a Feyborn. Not normal people.
Indeed. Balin, when you snap awake, you've got this giant moth atop you doing moth stuff. You said you were just going to try to bat it away.
Well, I think his first reaction would be to try to get out from under it, but if that didn't work, I think rewind might come to his thoughts.
I think pulling off the ritual under these circumstances would be difficult or incredibly dangerous without some space to do the ritual and time. But if you want to risk it, you can.
Perhaps a large cocoon would be easier to deal with.
Indeed. I like that. Let's talk about what could go wrong here. Rob, what could go wrong?
I think just the thing is already on top of you. The chances of you being able to keep your body under sufficient control to invoke a ritual properly under those circumstances are very low. So there's a high chance of the ritual doing something incorrect in some way.
You have your light die for rituals. Jack, you can make a devil's bargain.
I think in playing with time and space in this tight confine, I think that you will take on some aspect of this moth.
You take it?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, you've got 2 light dice, and you have to do dark because of the ritual. Go ahead.
Dark 6.
So your rune's going up, but you are going to fully do what you're going to do here. So describe it.
I think it's his eyes glow with that purple blue light, and he just pushes a hand forward and touches the moth, and we see the moth's wings stutter and start to beat backwards as it flies back to where it had been before it was made feral. And hopefully it will shrink.
Yeah, it could shrink, or it could just become a big cocoon. No, I like it. I like shrinking it back down to be a tiny little pupa. I'm gonna roll up the devil's bargain into your condition, which is, as you're looking at the pupa on this wet ground by the fire, you can feel something crawling around inside your tooth. Diane, you awake because of the commotion. Everyone's awake now. Part is gone. And this is just, no one's getting any rest tonight, I'm afraid. Let's just have the scene with the three of you.
I think I'll turn to Osto. What became of Parda?
I'm not entirely sure. There was a large moth. I was more concerned with that.
Valen will be just wiping his hand over his mouth, trying to get the moth bile, when he'll stop and pause and just start just touching a tooth, looking a little concerned.
Are you
A
okay?
moth.
Yes, I'm fine. Yes.
A moth, Osto. Would that be something you gave birth to?
No, I don't think it is. I do have something in me, though, that it feels uncomfortable, the way that it's entered me. Spiders. And I think when he says that, there's a moment where you probably see like one of the ruby spiders crawling up his neck and then going into one of the holes that have been bored into him. They won't come out of me.
I could perhaps assist you.
In what way?
And I think by way of response, there's a kind of slight amplification of the glow coming from within Diane's helmet.
No, I shouldn't. If anything, the brigand song really spoke to me. I can't fight nature. I have to embrace it. And this nature here has asked me to host these things, these creatures, and I will do my duty. And he starts to kind of twitch when he says that.
Well, death is a part of nature, just as life is.
If it becomes too much to bear, I will let you know.
Very well.
Now you see, some say the fire bearer was not Feyborn at all. That in fact, they were Saint Ara, the torchbearer herself, in an unusual form. Now, if this is true, why would Saint Ara present herself like this? Why would she be traveling with this group like this? And why would she be offering to use her mastery over fire to immolate one of her companions? It's unusual behavior. The offer, strange. But you have no evidence that this was Saint Ara the Torchbearer. No, it is merely a theory. That's what we're here to do. We're here to discuss theories, aren't we? Parda, you are making your way through the fen, going a little crazy because of this place and its effect on you. It's still night. And you see in the distance on a hill what appears to be a pair of lovers having a picnic. They're in silhouette. You can't make out the details, but they appear to be enjoying some kind of food or picnic in the moonlight. One of them is placing food in the other one's mouth, but very slowly. What do you do?
I need to see if they're rotten too. What if it's something this forest does to people? What if it's doing it to me? I need to see this.
As you approach, as you get closer, perhaps your very presence has shocked them, frozen them in terror, because they just keep holding this pose of a hand placing food in the mouth of the other. And as you get even closer, as you scramble up the hill, you see that in fact, it is a pair of desiccated corpses sitting across from each other atop a flat rock on the hill, the rotted remains of a picnic lunch laid out between them. There are maggots even still crawling through the remains of this picnic lunch. Each of these skeletal lovers has a hand placed in the other's mouth, which is filled with a fistful of loamy, maggot-infested soil. Please make a ruin roll. A 6, your ruin goes up to 5.
I'm at 5.
Again, you're at
It
5.
didn't go down. It didn't go down from 5. I
No,
rolled
no,
a
no,
5.
no. Earlier, it always goes down when you do your reduction roll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you're
Whew.
you're back at 5, basically.
Oh, I thought I was done for it.
No. That's the
That's
old
my
reduction
record
roll.
on ring 2.
The new reduction roll, it always goes down.
Awesome.
All that's at stake is whether you get seen or not. So you're back up at 5, though. You can keep doing the reduction roll regardless at this point, but you definitely need to soon again. You're ahead of the group. What do you do?
First thing I do is I kick these skeletons down the hill. I knew it. I knew there were going to be skeletons. I knew it. I knew it's going to be corpses. It's something this forest does. I need to get to the cathedral. I need to get what I came here to get, and then I'm done. I'm gone. So, kick the corpses down the hill. And then I'm going to, how can I slow down the others?
A couple of the salon attendees are like, "Oh, I love this part of the story.
Oh, no.
The woodcutter, she's really off our rocker at this point."
I think I look around to find a tree that is maybe a little bit more dead than the other trees. The tallest one I can find. And I mean, I'm very familiar with how to tear down trees, even if I don't have an axe. And I wrap my arms around it, and I use all of my strength to rock it back and forth until the roots start to come out of the ground, and you can hear them cracking and snapping, and then the tree just falls down on the path in the way.
I thought you were going to say on their camp.
That would have been hilarious, but I feel like I've gotten far enough away that I can just block the trail.
Make the reduction roll.
Got a 5 again.
I think you have a distinctive article of clothing that the others would recognize that gets snagged on the tree, so that when they come past this obstacle, they'll know that you were involved in downing it. What is it?
It's like a cloak that I always wear. It is plaid. It's made out of flannel, and it's been caught in the branches. So when the tree fell, it took my cloak with it. But I had to unbutton it so it wouldn't choke me. And I'm not going after it because I'm going to run.
Your ruin is back down to 4. Balin, Osto, Diane, you can continue on. It's early the next morning. The rest of your sleep was fitful at best.
Well, do we look for Pada, or do we just proceed without her?
I think that we should just proceed. And Diane and Valen would both see that over the course of the night, webs started to kind of gather on his body in and out of his holes, and sort of almost sort of like in a Rip Van Winkle sort of way. He's looking almost aged because of it.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. The way I understand the story is that the woodcutter came back to the camp, found our axe, and then hacked them to death. It's a very short story in the telling I've heard. Well, you're wrong, friend. You know how I know you're wrong? Because I'm a scholar, and you're just a person listening to me tell the story. Now, as I was saying,
We should press on, though.
Yes,
Valen, are you ready?
yes. But perhaps we will come across Parda. Forest is only so big.
It's quite big, actually. Our chances of finding her are virtually slim to none at this point.
Yes. Oh well.
And yeah, we'll pick up camp.
indeed, indeed. The day proceeds at length for all of you, for both our groups, our group of one, our group of three. It is, well, unpleasant. Indeed. At a certain point, you start to all feel bugs slapping against your shoulders, your cheek. Dragonfly flies right into your mouth, Valen. A couple of your teeth are rattling away. Parda, without your cloak, the thickening of the bugs is most unpleasant indeed. After a certain point, all four of you are caught up in thick swarms of buzzing, biting, stinging insects. They get in your eyes, in your ears, in your hair, in your mouths. Masses of centipedes writhe around your feet and wriggle into your boots. They swarm so thickly that you start to lose sight of each other, and you're just sort of stumbling about in bogs and brambles. They buzz so loudly you can't even hear each other over the cacophony. And always biting away. You're going to have to come up with some kind of solution here. Also, it's not a big deal for you, except to say, I think the red spiders are reacting in some particular way. What are they doing?
I think they're hungry. I think this is a buffet for them, but
Yeah.
they're in my body. So I think in this way that they're almost trying to take over his inner mechanics, I think he's instinctively just sort of swiping at the air, pulling in dragonflies and different beetles that are swarming around and just sort of stuffing them inside of him. And though his body is compelled to do it, his face doesn't have the expression of someone who feels like they're in control. And there's a moment where, as he's picking up clusters of bugs, he sees this very large tree trunk in the middle of the path, and he sees this vibrant tartan cloak that's covered in beetles and swarms. And I think as he scoops it up, he realizes, and he holds it up to the others. Does this look familiar?
I think Valen will be swiping in front of his face and say, hard to say. Is there anything you can do about this with your friends, perhaps?
I'm doing my best. They're quite gluttonous, and he shoves the swarm into him and starts to kind of like pull off some of the bugs that are like flying and around Valen's head.
Diane, do they just burn up when they hit you?
I think we see Diane starting to stumble and struggle a little. The bugs are so thick. Some of them are crisping up, some of them are burning, but there's so many that they are crawling inside the armor. And I think before too long, Diane stumbles to their knee, but then dipping their head is going to use the immolate ritual to just burn them away.
I'll take that as a way of helping the whole group navigate this, I think, because you can almost act like a giant citronella candle or something. You know?
Yeah.
Big, massive tiki torch. I love that. Aparta, you're going to have to do your own role to deal with these insects. So how are you going to deal with that? Also, before you go any further, I want everyone to do a ruin roll because of these bugs.
I haven't had good luck with ruin rolls.
5, I'm going up.
It's a 1 for me.
5, I'm going up.
Diane, Aparta's at 5. Asta's at... Asta, what'd you get?
I got a 1.
Okay, so you're good at 4. Phelan, what'd you get?
3.
Okay, you're good at 4. And so Diane, you're going up to 4. So Diane, I owe you a condition. And Pardo, you're back in reduction roll territory. Parda, if you want to do something right now that will make it really difficult for the other group right now, I'll let you have the reduction roll first.
I do.
What do you do?
I'm panicking. These bugs, I can't see where I'm going. What if I'm heading back towards those corpse people that were my team? I'm freaking out. So I do what I usually do in moments of confusion and horror, and this is something that I've learned since escaping prison. I'm going to say a prayer to Saint Fionn, one of the sisters. She is mostly venerated by woodsmen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to read from Loom what it says.
Yeah, go
The
ahead.
woodsmen who venerate Saint Fionn hold a feast in her name before felling a particularly old tree. This rite is significantly tamed from Fionn's time, when she required that any tree taken from the forest must be balanced with the sacrifice of an old person who is given over to be feasted upon by beasts. And I ask her to have her beasts feast on my 3 living companions who are desiccated and rotting away anyway. They're old, even if they're not. And let me through this marshy, buggy wetland.
Make the reduction roll, because first I want to know if your companions get some sort of sense that you're behind this.
I can't believe how mean I am. I rolled a 2.
Now you see. The woodcutter calls upon Saint Fionn, who back then was more akin to an angry primeval god demanding human sacrifice for the wood. This is not the behavior of a benevolent woman saint teaching tree people how to live off the land. It's nothing like that. This is horror. This is primal terror. This is the old ways. This is something fundamentally unknowable, evil even. But there's no evidence that that actually happened. No one actually believes that the woodcutter prayed to Saint Fionn and Saint Fionn intervened and tried to eat their companions. We have no proof. The stories are very, very conflicted. Nevertheless, it is simply what I posit. We'll get to your role in a bit. Parda, I'm just going to let you survive it. Saint Fionn intervenes.
Love it. Thank you.
And I think the swarm gets so thick that the 3 of you are split up. And Diane, you've already described how you're going to try to save yourself. Valen, how are you going to try to save yourself?
I think perhaps Valen doesn't actually he doesn't run away. He casts clock on the area he's in the hopes that it would slow the bugs, but it slows him. So everyone leaves him.
Oh, very interesting. But how are you going to survive, though?
Hopefully by the time the spell ends, the bugs will have moved on.
Oh, I see. Oh, good. Okay, we'll come to that. Osto, what about you? You don't really have a matter of like being chewed up so much. St. Fiona can't really take you in that way, but perhaps you might become like rooted to this spot as you become a sort of living buffet for these red spiders inside your body. I don't know. What do you
Or a
do?
hotel, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think as we're starting to sort of split up, trying to battle back these bugs, there's a moment where Osto is thinking about why he's here and thinking about the repairs that can be done to him, thanks to the tools that are within the Gleaming Cache, and that pushes him to think on his feet. And knowing his relationship with Vermin, I think that he's going to try and cast a ritual to see if he can get this swarm, this colony around him, to try and get him back on the right path.
Very good. And we'll check in with Diane first, though, doing immolate. I owe you a condition as well, Diane, but we'll get to that in a bit. Ben and Jack, what do we think could go wrong for Diane here?
I think the insects here are obviously they belong to the forest, and so they'll start to infest you and control you.
I was thinking that the heat would be so great to deal with these insects that it would actually melt parts of your armor, and you will be frozen in place.
Intriguing. I think maybe you just get I think maybe just the immolation gets out of control, and you just like burn up. Let's talk
Isn't
about
your armor all metal?
Of
What's
some
that
kind,
thing where you
yes.
put somebody in a metal thing and you set it on fire? Like a
not be
A brass
iron
bowl?
bowl or some brass
Yeah.
bowl, brass bowl.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Well, let's talk about dice. Do you think you have a skill that's going to help you here?
Let me take a look. Ferocity or presence?
I'll take ferocity. I like that. Everyone can make a devil's bargain.
I was a little bit distracted when we were having this scene, so I don't have one.
We'll come back. It's fine. Or
No matter what,
get you next time.
no matter what, your armor will always be sort of white hot to the touch, and so you won't be able to necessarily interact with things in a normal way.
I was thinking that, yeah, you would melt, no matter what, you'll melt some bits of the hinges of your armor and you will get a condition of stiff.
The scholar is right, and you're actually Saint Ara the Torchbearer.
I like Jack's condition of me being white hot from this point on.
Very good.
So that's 2 light, 1 dark, right?
Yes.
That's a 5 light.
5 light. Very good. Complication is going to be that complication is going to be that you get separated from the group.
Okay.
like for good, like not for good, but like for a little while, even more than you are right now. But go ahead and think about your scene, how you're going to protect yourself. Let's go over to Valen. So Valen, your intention was to describe it again.
To manipulate time in the hopes that the bugs would be slow enough to just pass through, but I end up slowing myself, so perhaps I'm not aware of anything again until nightfall.
Right. I don't think I quite understand. I think I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this. So like you are going to, you're not trying to slow yourself down.
I'm trying to, cast clock on everything around me so I
Right.
can just
Walk through
rush
it.
through everything.
Yeah, okay. But then like I don't understand the second part. Like you're trying to then
Instead of slowing the bugs, I slow myself. So from my perspective, everything is moving pretty fast.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you're just able to endure it because it feels like it's not happening it's happening very quickly to you. Is that the idea?
Yeah, the bugs themselves are anything touching me, I assume, would also be moving as slowly. So I only have a first layer of bugs to deal with, and then by the time I wake up, everything's gone.
Got it. Okay. So Jack, what could go wrong?
The teeths will hatch, and the insects that are inside will have their way with you.
Let's talk about dice. You have your first light die, no problem. Amanda, Devil's Bargain.
No matter or not, no. Hold on. Oh, no matter what, whatever is wiggling your teeth speeds up too.
I'll take that.
You have 2 light dice and 1 dark die. Go ahead.
Light 6.
Go ahead and describe how you survive the swarm.
It's almost in frustration and panic that he reaches for his magic, and the spell starts out going right until something crawls right under his eyelid, and he reaches up to brush it, and he freezes.
Nice. So they'll eventually just pass over you. Intriguing. I think that I'm curious about how your teeth react, because what's happening is each of your teeth is a little cocoon for a moth. And when your tooth falls out, the moth is born. But I'd like to know how that's being affected by the magic.
Because his teeth are now not part of him, they're still moving in real time. So he's not even aware that when he next becomes aware, these things will be hatching.
Osto, let's have your roll. Describe to us what you're trying to do again.
Yeah, so I'm going to use my swarm ritual to communicate with the spiders that are in me, to have them sort of pilot my body through the swarm and get me closer to the treasure.
Rob, what could go wrong here?
They are not leading you toward the treasure. They're leading you to some purpose of their own, of the forests.
You have 1 light die, and Ben, you can make the Devil's Bargain.
No matter what, one of the bugs will be carrying a patch of moss that will land somewhere you can't see, and it will begin to grow.
I'm into it.
2 light, 1 dark.
It's 5 dark.
So you're going up to 5.
Yes,
Go
I
ahead,
am.
go ahead and describe how you are safe.
So we see him trying to trudge through like these hordes of flying insects. And it looks for a moment like he's just going to sort of crumple and submit to them. But as he's sort of cowering, he's starting to intone the ritual and speak to the spiders. And he's just sort of he's bargaining with them almost. Please get me through this, and I'll get you to wherever you need to go. And we finally see his body sort of stiffen up in this robotic way, as if not being moved. Like he's not moving it on his own. The things that are inside of him are piloting him, and so he's just sort of Terminator style walking straight through the swarm, completely unaffected by the creatures that are around him.
I owe you a complication, but I'll. It's gonna kind of happen as we proceed. And I owe Diane a condition. Diane, you're separated from the group. And I think that as you're sort of making your way past this smoldering cloud of bug embers, proceeding deeper into the fen, you're going to start to realize how this place is affecting you. I'm picking from a list here. I think that you start to realize that parts of your body are changing. You look down and you can see that your feet aren't filling out your boots like they normally do. Indeed, you have a strange pain in your boots that you are now suddenly aware of. And when you remove your boots to investigate, you can see that your feet are starting to twist out of shape. There are like hoof-like growths bursting forth from between your toes and the pad of your foot. And you can feel your hands also twisting together in this way, your fingers fusing. What do you do?
I think it feels like a hopeless situation in a way, or that it's a matter of time. And as that before, that the hands and feet are transformed beyond the point where I can hold something or wear my armor. And as the thought of time comes to me, I think, where is Phelan? I need to find Phelan.
I will tell you also, Diane, there's something following you in the woods. You can hear it brushing against the treetops, rubbing up against tree trunks. Parda, you get through the swarm. Saint Fione answers your prayers. Indeed, she gives and gives. Because you are the first to arrive at a path. It is a stone path, like a road, but of course it's from an ancient time, and so it's only partially still standing or still, there. But it's definitely like a formerly like paved road. And all along this road are shrines. Each little shrine depicts an effigy of one of the sisters. You find Saint Fione's shrine. What offerings do you give to Saint Fione, or what do you do?
As Hmm. I think I'm very sort of submissive as I approach, trying to make myself small and weak, because that's what I am compared to Saint Fione, despite, my strength. And I don't have the normal sacrifices one would make to Saint Fione, an old boar, an old person, perhaps some delicious food that was recently cooked. So I take from my pocket a seed, a tree from my hometown, a seed from a tree from my hometown. It's an evergreen. It grows tall and slender and is great for housing sparrows. I plant the seed just behind her effigy so that it can grow tall and beautiful with her power.
That will take some time. Osto and Valen, you come through the swarm. You also come upon this old shrine path. You might even see Parda up ahead, giving her offerings. Valen, is there a sister that you venerate, that the sorcerers venerate?
Not him, no. His cult was very differently minded.
Indeed. Osto, have you taken up the faith of the sisters?
Well, his maker was a faithful man, and taught him about various saints, various sisters, and I think that he'd always been attracted to. I believe her name is Saint Oda, the saint of clockwork machinery, and he even has sort of marking it in much in the same way that the sister has. He has a gear ring, like a ring made of a gear on his finger. But when he sees these rows of shrines, he marvels at it for a moment. There was another sister, though, that he had learned about in the evenings when his maker was asleep. A nameless saint of death. And so, as part of my reduction roll, I would like to go up to that shrine and put down the tartan cloak that I have.
I love it.
And
make a reduction roll.
Yeah, and I'll be speaking to the spiders, saying, "Take this as an offering, as your meal." It's a 6.
Parda, you look over from your shrine down the way and you see the mannequin laying your cloak on this shrine. Valen, you're the first to notice that this stone path is actually not a path at all, or not a road. It used to be some sort of structure, a cathedral perhaps. You can see portions of overgrown wall here and there. And that the bugs, the swarm, has created this almost like vaulted ceiling over this space. It's a buzzing cacophony, a strange, monotone, angelic chorus of insects buzzing noisily over the three of you. And elsewhere, Diane, you are stumbling through the bog with your hooves, and something following you, but also something ahead of you. A woman ahead of you. A woman whose hands and eyes burn with white-hot fire. And so passes ring 2. And we will go to Stars and Wishes for our session today. Whoever wants to go, please do.
I love all these characters. They're like, I really enjoy the transition to dark, where it feels like everyone just kind of has license to cut loose with some really high concept characters, which is a lot of fun. It wasn't until, Jason, you gave me the condition of having hands and feet transforming into hooves that I even kind of decided on that Diane had some kind of physical form inside the armor. So I guess they do. Yeah, I loved, I don't know, so many good moments. That, like, started Ben for coming up with a rhyme on the fly like that. Started Jack for the just really inventive interpretation of what being a nest means, and that, like, it's so effective in combination with being a mannequin. Like, it's almost like you're this walking, like, bug hotel thing that, you know, is just this assemblage of wood that is infested with these creatures. And when the Leviathan came out, I was almost thinking, you know, is that Osto, or is Osto the mannequin, or is Osto this creature that was inside? And Parda, Amanda, that I know, but people watching the video can't see the portrait you chose on the character keeper, but that's glorious. And yeah, the immediate descent into chaos and reduction rolls and betrayal was great fun. And yeah, I've played this incursion before, but it's already totally 180 degrees different from how it played out before. So that's always fun.
Yeah, this is I always love jumping into the dark. I always love the opportunity to play it, and I've never played this incursion before. So I'm excited to finally get to do it. I really love the sort of framing of this dark incursion, with the kind of interludes of different kind of back and forth with the at this forum, at this discussion about legitimacy of the saints. I love cutting back to that in between certain moments. It's been really fun to watch. Starter Ben for dropping bars on us like that. That was great. I wish I was clever enough to do that. But yeah, it was a great moment. And I also love this kind of inventive use of time, especially you trying to slow yourself down so you can just kind of deal with everything, or rather not deal with anything, so that when you wake up, it's almost like nothing happened. I really liked I can again. I know I say it a lot, but I can always count on Amanda to really throw a wrench into things. And I promise I'll stop picking on you in another Trophy Dark incursion, trying to stop murder you. It won't be this one though. And so yeah, thank you for always kind of like throwing that in there and keeping us all on our toes. I really liked Diane as this like almost elemental creature within, and now that he's got horns, or they've got horns and fingers that are not transforming, kind of like sort of as a wish too, just sort of seeing how they handle that kind of change. And I'm curious to know what's following him with them. Sorry, curious to know what's following them. And yeah, other wish is just to see where we end up. See if I have another giant centipede in me. I don't know. We'll see.
My stars are so very similar. I have played this incursion before. I've played it twice before, and it was so different. Even once I played with Rob, and this is already still so different. So I'm really loving how this is working out. I really like how much we're leaning into the use of rituals. I feel like sometimes in Dark, because rituals are harder to work in sometimes and they're dangerous, people don't really use them a lot, and I feel like we're using them a lot, and it's a lot of fun. Ben, your use of rewind and clock and that combination of those two is excellent. It's so fun. I'm also going to be talking about how you just dropped us a song out of nowhere. That was amazing. That was so good. I really like how Diane is dealing with things. Like, it feels a little unnatural, setting the way the fires are working, the way Diane just interacts with the world. I think that it just has I don't know, like an eerie feel to it. That's kind of, kind of sketchy, but also a lot of fun. I'm hoping that continues. Osto and the bugs inside of you is so gross. It's so gross. It's just real gross. I love it. It's perfect. And I like that you leaned into it and took 3 rituals, because that's gutsy. You're ready to go down swinging. I actually was intending to have like a quieter, normal, okay, I'm gonna just go with the flow, gonna get things done, it'll be fine kind of character, but I just roll so poorly that it's not gonna happen. Jason, there's a bunch of moments in here. I didn't take notes. That's how much I was into this. I didn't take any notes, so I'm just going off what I remember now. There were so many moments that I just was so grossed out. The teeth stuff. I'm thinking back to when the last time I played Flocculent Cathedral with you and Rob and the rest of the Shadow Society people, and I had my tongue turned into a slug. The teeth stuff is worse than that. It's so gross. It's wonderful. You're doing just a great job, and I also really love the framing device that we're using for this. It makes it feel like our incursion is an epic incursion. It's a story. Magda probably knows this story, so I'm really, really having a lot of fun. I'm excited to see if we all last past Ring 3. That would be cool. I'm excited to see what's going to happen next when Parda and Osto get into a contest role, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, I had a good time. I really I thought it was really interesting, like how quickly it like went to betrayal, and it's kind of interesting because Parda like almost right away separated herself from the group, right, because of High Ruin, but it's made the story really interesting. Like it's like you just have this like antagonist that's ahead of you, like causing trouble, and I just really like that. It's kind of a fun vibe. I love the way Jack is playing. I love the way you're playing the nest, or this mannequin. It's a thing we've kind of seen before. Mannequins are often nests as well. But it's I think even you, Jack, I've seen you play this kind of character before, but like but it's really cool, and the way you're I like the way you're playing the mannequin. Like it's almost like this like kind of detached naivete, which is really fun. So I'm enjoying that quite a bit. And I had great fun with the dream, the weird dream with Phelan. That was really amusing to me. And yeah, I'm really like I kind of know what I'm teeing up for Diane with the woods and this thing following them, and then this woman, this burning woman. Like I know what I have in mind here, and I'm just very curious to see like how you react to it and what do you do. I think that'll just be fun to see how it plays out. Yeah, and I'm having a lot of fun with my little kind of silly framing device. The little salon is kind of fun. So yeah, just good time all around. Fantastic. Any other stars or wishes? Was that everybody, or did?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Oh, Ben. Okay, sorry, Ben, you didn't go.
Yeah, the framing device is great. It's a lot of fun bouncing back and seeing the modern scholars. Jason, also star for making me just intensely aware of my teeth right now. Like just I'll be flossing like soon as this ends. Yeah, the dream and just everything, all the chaos that Parda has sown for us that we just keep bumping into and having to deal with. It's great. Amanda, you are having I hope you're having fun making everything terrible. It's really fun to see. The great the mannequin, the nest, I really love. You just pulled out a giant centipede monster. That's such a great interpretation of Leviathan. Not deep like the sea, but deep like me. That was great. And Diane, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens to you. It is a really cool kind of, there's something very mythic again about Diane as presented, and seeing that kind of broken down in the past. It'll be interesting to see how the modern scholars interpret everything that happens to Diane. This is good fun. I've never played this. I have run it once. It's fun to see how different it is with every time it goes through.
Fantastic. Anything else before we go? Okay, well, let's wave goodbye. Bye, everyone.